And then he brought me this one. I said, I'm not going to read the book. Give me an elevator pitch. And he said, it's baseball. I said, okay, it's kids. Okay, it's camp. Okay, done. I know how to market this.
This is Truly Independent, a show that demystifies the indie film journey by documenting the process of releasing independent films in theaters. Each week, Garrett Batty and I, Darren Smith, will update you on our journey, bringing guests to share their insights into the process and answer your questions. All right, welcome everyone. Garrett, it's exciting to be here with you and our guests today. We have Lee and Catherine, who are the writer, director, producer team behind the movie Rally Caps. Welcome, you two. It's so good to see you.
Thank you. Nice have been here.
It's good.
Garrett, great to be here. Thanks for having us.
Good to connect with you. Darren, nice to see you again. Hopefully you've had a good week. We've had some good comments on last week's episode. So thank you very much to our listeners for continuing to listen and support and share and comment. We love hearing the feedback, and we try to address each question on each episode.
That is very, very true. So today we're excited to have this conversation because we just recently saw your guys' film Rally Caps at the Zion's Indie Film Fest. And I saw it and then came downstairs and instantly wanted to meet you two to say, can we please have you on our podcast? Because A, it's a great movie. B, I'm sure there's a lot that went into the story behind getting it developed and financed and produced and distributed. And so that's what we're here to talk about today. These are two filmmakers who have done it, who have made a movie, and it's now available to watch to the masses. So why don't we start with a little bit of background on you two. Tell us about your story. And, you know, this is what, your fourth movie. So maybe give us a little bit of background before we get into the story of Rally Caps.
Yeah, Rally Caps is my fourth feature directing. I've produced and edited a bunch of other films. Kathy and I have collaborated on several types of media content. This is our second feature together. And yeah, it's spanned 15 to 20 years of work in the industry. And we've also, both of us, I'll let Catherine speak for herself, but one of our biggest assets is that we've worked we've worn a bunch of different hats in the process, not just directing and producing, but before that, pretty much everything there is to do on a film set. So that's like my first word of advice for people is, get as much experience living in every position's shoes, and that will make you a better leader.
Yeah. Awesome. I am Catherine, and I started in a marketing, actually. Well, I started as a PA. I went all the way to coordinating, then UPM, Unit Production Manager, and then to producing. And when we moved to LA, I ended up in marketing for some reason. So I started working as soon as I learned marketing, I said, any producer needs to learn marketing. That is like, for me, as soon as I got into that world, I was like, be able to see the film industry in a completely different way. And that was very, very helpful for me. So then I start having those hats of every time I produce, I have that marketing hat where I can actually see how can I sell this movie. And you can sell it and you can put a heart as well. And I think that Rally Caps is a good example of a marketable movie with a heart.
Yes. Yeah, absolutely. And I mean, speaking of marketing, I mentioned that my first encounter with Rally Caps was actually out at NRB, where it was being marketed or promoted or discussed or talked about. And then I'm a judge for Zion's Indie Film Fest, and this Rally Caps here pops up in my queue to judge, and I just thought, oh, what a fun movie. And so then when we finally met at the festival, I already felt like I had sort of connection to you all. So yeah, it's exciting to talk to you. I want to ask real quick, I want to dial in on that. Why, Catherine, should every producer understand marketing or have that immediately caught my attention when you said that?
Yes, it's just that you need to know your audience. I mean, when you're reading, at the end of the day, this is show business. Is a business, and a movie is a product. Yes, we can have products that inspire, we can have products that can give good messages. But at the end of the day, as a producer, you need to know how to sell your product. who's the audience, where can I take it. The beauty that is what is happening nowadays is that there's different audiences for everything. We have, like, you can create anything, but it has a way better idea of how to market something. When you take a script, for example, Lee brought the script to me, and as soon as I took the script, I put my marketing. I
Yeah.
said, you know what? I can literally market this movie. I gave him notes based on marketing. Like I said, you know what? It would be better if I can put this product here, or like product placement. I was thinking about product placement. I was thinking about a sponsorship. I was thinking about like, for example, it's like, okay, for example, we need more diversity here because I can sell it in different countries. What is the United States, for example, for distribution? A lot of people says, oh my god, this is just a United States movie,
Yeah.
because it's like, it's just baseball.
Baseball,
But
summertime, kids baseball.
no, but it's a family movie. It's a
Wow.
family movie. When you like, we got somebody from Germany asking us about the movie, and he's like, I know how to market this movie in Germany because it's beyond baseball.
Yeah.
So those kind of things, when you put your marketing hat at the script level and you collaborate with the writer, you can literally start seeing without sacrificing his vision. That's one of the beauties of working with Lee, because he's very open mind. He's not that kind of writer or director that's like, no, I'm not going to move my script, I'm not going to change anything. No, he was actually really open, and he trusts me a lot in the marketing side. So when I was giving him notes, he's like, oh well, that's a good idea. And sometimes he would say, no, you know what, I don't want to change this. So I would give him different options to not sacrifice his vision. And I
Lee,
think that is what is important about knowing marketing as a producer.
how do you balance, Lee, that desire that, yeah, let's pay attention to the marketing, or we obviously want to make the film sellable, but also protecting that creative vision, or this is the story I want to tell, and it might not involve you know product placement.
I think the first thing is to get over yourself as a creative and not take things to not make be precious about your work. It is your baby, but not too precious. You don't want to be a helicopter parent. What's great about Kathy is that she has a creative head as well. She started in LA reading lots of scripts for Warner Brothers and breaking them down. So she understands like the writer's plight. She understands story. So like
Oh,
it's
yeah.
great for all facets to know the other side. So working with people that understand the other side, but also are just really brilliant at what they do, and sort of finding a happy medium. I think as a creative, it's really, and writers really know this, they're always trying to hone in on a theme, right? What is your freaking movie about? What are you trying to say with this movie?
Yeah.
Like, it can be about aliens, it can be about kids playing baseball, it could be about whatever, two people talking in a room. But what is it really trying to say? Like, once you've centered on that, there's a lot of different iterations of the way that you can portray that or tell that story and get that theme. And so being open to like, hey, okay, for instance, we had to move a location, but we could still have the characters say the same thing and perform the same function in the story. If those pieces can be moved around without sacrificing the integrity. But that's not always easy when you're putting two different minds together. That like, if someone wants to grab a big sponsor and it's going to, pull in a bunch of money, but and or they need to sell to a certain demographic, but they need to change this. That's where it gets tricky. But you have, as a creative, you really have to understand the bigger picture, but not sacrifice the integrity.
It's a delicate balance, and it's awesome. What great insight to say, to be able to work with somebody that has that marketing intelligence, but also knows the writer's plight. What a yeah,
When
that's
and
super
from the
helpful.
very beginning too, right? Not just at the end once the movie's made and going, how are we going to market this? Like the fact that you're doing that from the script stage, from the development stage is huge. So maybe we start there. How did this story find you, or how did you find this story of Rally Caps?
So I just want to touch on a point you just made, Darren. I think that's really, really important. A big lesson that I learned as an indie filmmaker, as a grassroots filmmaker, whatever you want to call it, the entry point to any project, even at the idea stage, you should start thinking about marketing, right? And that's not to say like, oh, I have this great idea, but I'm going to sacrifice everything because it's like it's got to fit into a genre. No, if
Right.
you have an indie, obscure indie film idea, then that's what you should lean into. Like, hey, I think this is something that could possibly go to Sundance or whatever the big goal is, but like that's what it is, and then you start marketing that, and that's such a big that really can shape and mold your story, the way you make the movie, and all of that stuff. But really getting in on the entry at the idea level. So just kind of like reiterate that point, that's super important, because I think a lot of times people try to pivot later when it's too late, and that's when things derail.
Well, just to answer the question, is like, and following Lee, is that when he had an idea to write a script, he brought me another book. And the book, he said, oh my God, and he was super excited about this book. I read the book and I said, Lee, I don't know how to market this. It's an amazing book, it's beautiful, but literally on the screen, I cannot market. And he was so disappointed. And then he's like, okay. And he's like, and then we play he has to give me if he really likes the book, I will read the book, but if not, an elevator pitch. And when he brought me a first book, it's like, no, I don't know how to market this. And then he brought me this one. I said, I'm not going to read the book. Give me an elevator pitch. And he said, it's baseball. I said, okay. It's kids. Okay. It's camp. Okay, done. I know how to market this. And
So
then,
the original project that she's talking about was kind of like a Goonies idea. It was a book that I was trying to adapt, and like I was in love with it because of like the kids and the story and like the adventure, but like it actually really wasn't marketable in its plot. And so like there was a big, because like the whole plot is like you can't reveal what happens at the end, whatever. Not to get too much into it, but Kathy looked at it right away and she's like, I'm glad you're having fun with this, but you cannot market something that like you can't show some sort of creature in the trailer, or like you have to, what's the promise of the premise? It's like, you go to watch Jurassic Park, like if you didn't know it was about dinosaurs, you wouldn't be going to see it, right? Like
Yeah,
there's
yeah,
got to
yeah.
be a premise there. So circling back to Rally Caps, I always wanted to work in that space. Like I'm a huge fan of The Sandlot, Field of Dreams, those 90s era classic, kids baseball films, Rookie of the Year, all that stuff. So I always wanted to work in that space. It was 2020 when I started the script, and it was right like
COVID.
when the pandemic started.
Wow.
And I had a bunch of other projects that I had been developing for years. I was writing specs for my manager, and for years and years, I couldn't get any of these things off the ground. But yeah, I was kind of writing on assignment, all that stuff. And then the pandemic hit, everything closed down, and it was like, okay, what are we going to, and a lot of my colleagues were like, okay, we're just going to kind of hunker down, figure out how to make a movie about two people in a cabin and go shoot that, right?
Yeah.
Like that was the big thing. And, I was on sort of that train, but I was like, I don't really have any ideas. So maybe I'll just write something that I would love to make. And that is not my quote. That is Jordan Peele's quote, because I saw him speaking, and he said that, like, and it's so simple but so profound, like write what you would like to see. And I realized at that point I had never done that in my career. I was always trying to write what I thought like the industry needed, or what would get sold, or like, hey, this great movie just happened, I could write something like that, and like it'll be the next version of that. No. Like you really, like, yeah, write from your heart, but also like what would you really be excited to see? And so Rally Caps was a book written by a father-daughter team, Stephen Cutler and Jody Michelle Cutler,
Oh,
based
wow.
on their own experiences. It's an amalgamation of experiences. Stephen is Jody, who goes through the injury. That's what happened to him in real life. And Jody based the character of Lucas after her own son, who wore a cochlear implant and was a catcher and a baseball player. And, so it had this really dynamic relationship, but the backdrop was kids, camps, baseball, Sandlot. And I'm like, Stephen had sent me the book years and years ago when it was published in 2007. We had stayed in touch. He was very, very motivated to make it, to say the least. but making a baseball kids film is quite expensive, and now we're talking about the pandemic. So like making it like really wasn't on my mind. It was just an excuse to write something in a space that I wanted to, a sandbox that I wanted to play in.
Yeah.
And so I wrote, we started adapting it, and I went through a couple of different drafts. And this is something that like I had talked about making at some point, maybe like kind of a pipe stream, but I really just wanted to just to write it, and it was for fun, and I thought it was just going to go in my digital folder. Like we don't have printed out scripts anymore, right? Like, but like just the proverbial sit in the drawer and never be touched again, and just a fun project, right? I was working with my manager on several other things months later, and I told him that like I was just kind of messing around and writing this little script or whatever. So he had five other scripts that he was reviewing, and he's like, all right, yeah, throw it in, whatever. I want to read everything that you're working on. And about a week later, he comes back and he's like, Lee, you got to make rally caps. Like, and he had never had that like sort of enthusiasm before, as much as he supported my work. But he was like, it's like, no, rally caps, you got. I'm like, really? Anyway, so long story short, I know I've said that a couple of times, and I'm making it longer, but the script just like for the first time really in my life, like from the script point, it was exciting people, and everyone was really feeling the vibe, the retro vibe of of the classic baseball kids movie, but done in a modern way. I like to pitch it as an indie character driven version of the Sandlot,
Yeah.
with a little bit of Field of Dreams mixed in, and definitely some other references. But everyone was picking up on that vibe, and over the course of like 6 months, we started to get investors. Curtis Pride, he plays himself in the movie. His children are his children are Lucas and Nikki, play those roles. He was involved with Major League Baseball. He got them on board. So brick by brick, it just came together pretty quickly. And it like that had never really happened before for me. So like obviously it wasn't easy, but it just sort of was this universal order that came into play, that just things started to just to come together. And before we knew it, we were shooting this movie in the pandemic, with when you're supposed to have isolated locations and one character, two characters at most. We are going to a camp, fully functioning camp, with 15 kids and their parents, and like baseball scenes and all this, and all on like basically a micro budget.
Yeah.
I joke to people I might as well have just written in a talking dog at that point, just to really spice things up. But yeah, it didn't make sense, but the universe wanted it.
Well, you pulled it off. You definitely pulled it off. So congratulations on that. How did the funding come together? You said it was some different independent investors, or were there product placement things?
Yeah, so I'll let Kathy speak more a little bit on maybe the business aspect, and how, because I want to be informative for your viewers on like pitfalls that we ran into.
And whatever you're willing to share too, because we don't want
it's okay. Everything was
protecting.
legal. Everything was legal. Yes. I promise.
But like what the director's version of like we got the green light and everybody liked it, and then we were shooting, and like the producers going, there was a lot of work that went between those two steps. So Catherine, handing it over to you, how did that actually happen?
Fair.
Well, number one, when we start seeing, number one, I was not going to be part of this project. Then when I started seeing that he was a director, writer, and then a producer, I said, you can't do this by yourself. And then I saw him so motivated and said, you know what? It would be nice to help him. So I came on board, and the moment that I actually got on board was because of SAG. We needed, so we were supposed to be just this indie film. And as soon as we got Amy Smart and Judd Hirsch, everything started being a snowball. And then we were supposed not to shoot like with SAG or anything. It was very indie. And as soon as they came on board, everybody became SAG.
So I just want to I'm going to let you finish, Catherine, as you should, but I just want to interrupt for a second because that is a huge pitfall
Yes.
as a director that's just gung ho about like putting the pieces together. Oh my God, Judd wants to be in your movie. Judd Hirsch wants to be in your movie. Amy Smart. These are great things, but like it's not as simple as just. I mean, if you're best friends with a name actor and they want to be in it and they want to produce the film and pull the resources in, that's one scenario. But just because an actor like says yes to your script doesn't mean like, oh, let's just, schedule the date and let's rock and roll. You have to put money into escrow as a producer, pay and play, all that stuff. And I'm saying this because, we didn't go into this with the budget that we ultimately ended up having. We were going to make a micro project and we thought we could just, shoot our main stars and figure everything else out and didn't know really all the logistics of working with unions. And that's where things got really, really stressful. So for filmmakers that are doing grassroots and are lucky enough to get name talent, they really need to understand how Screen Actors Guild, all those things work, because before you know it, you could be spiraling downward. And we almost got shut down several times. And the stakes in that is not just like everyone goes home and it doesn't happen. It's that you've got investors' money in the bank, in escrow, that's going to just dissipate and go nowhere with nothing to show for it. And so that's where really the big stress comes in. Sorry, Catherine, you can finish.
So, as you can hear, I came to the most stressful times where it's like literally, it's like he says, okay, we have some money. And it's like, okay, some money, not to finish the movie. So then one of the biggest challenges we have is like, okay, we did this escrow for Amy and Judd, but the biggest challenge was we didn't have the SAG paperwork. Usually you have 6 weeks to like 8 weeks to do SAG paperwork. We literally
That's
were
how long it
2 weeks.
takes, like
Yeah, we were
usually.
like 2 weeks, 3 weeks before we shoot. And then we were rushing. Thank God we had a friend of ours that she actually has worked with SAG. So she is an independent contractor that I hire for her knowledge of how to do paperwork really fast.
Yeah.
And there were so many times when she's like, guys, if you do this, there's no way back. And literally, I remember Zach called me and said, you guys are not going to be able to shoot. And Lee literally was with Amy Smart planning how to shoot in 3 days. And I had no, like, literally Zach telling me, you guys are not going to shoot. And it was super stressful. And then finally, I was able to, like, literally, I think that he was already in LA. He was going to ready to shoot. And the day before is where Zach gave me a green light before he shoot. And
Mm.
I was like, literally, it was horrible. It was like 5 p.m. my time. And then he's like, we're closing at 5. You have 5 minutes to sign this paperwork. And I had to run to one place to another one,
Yeah.
really sign
She
it.
was doing a full time job, by the way, when she
Yeah,
was
I
doing
mean,
Yeah.
nobody sees
God.
that on producers. Nobody sees this stress that is like, okay, Lee, number one, my main goal is to protect him from, he doesn't need to know everything.
Yeah.
He needs to keep his integrity of creativity. The problems that we face as producers is my problem, is my challenge to deal with personalities, to deal with contracts, finances, but not to give him any worry. He knew that there was something happening and then he was sweating it. But then at the end, I
Just what
said,
I knew. Like, I didn't know everything, but just what I knew was enough to, like, give me a heart attack. So, good thing I didn't know everything.
but then at the end, we were able to shoot with Screen Actors, like they gave us a green light.
Yeah.
But then we faced the other thing is that we didn't know that we had to put a deposit, a bond in
Yeah. Known
still
as a bond.
in SAG
Yeah.
for them to protect the actors because we didn't have the full budget. And that is like, okay, we have this budget, we have in escrow for Amy and Judd. Now we have to pay this bond, and the
Yeah.
bond is something that you leave there until the movies end. So it's like
A lot
literally
of people
there's
don't
money.
know that you have to do this before you
No.
start. Like,
Yeah.
you have to budget that in. And so we didn't know. And so like that bond came out of the budget that we thought we had, and suddenly we were left with. I'm not going to give the specific number, but
It's a
it
chunk.
was probably
It's an
It's a
amount.
it's a chunk. It was
yeah.
in our case, it was what Kathy you'd say like 30-40% of our budget,
Yes.
something like that,
Yeah.
I would
and
say
so we had to
25% of the
raise
budget.
that money back and put it back into the budget within a week to shoot.
So
Yes. So
so I mean, it seems like I mean, headaches with SAG or union or whatever are no, that's not a rare occurrence. That is a you're making a movie, embrace this headache. So my question to you for independent filmmakers, is it worth it? I mean, you got Judd Hirsch and Amy Smart in your movie, which is incredible, and they were so good and so fun to watch. And
Oh, I mean,
is it
without a
is that
doubt.
opening doors for distribution? Like, is it worth the headache?
definitely it opens doors, and it definitely was worth it.
Okay,
The
good.
thing is that what I would recommend everybody is like literally do the paperwork in advance. Like prepare yourself when you're doing like when you're looking for talent, make sure that you have like the budget, because honestly we would not have them if we would not had a budget. We already knew we told them that we had investors already, and there it's very like the way we negotiate that was like we have this amount of money, we negotiated and they were in. One of the biggest challenges we face is that our budget start going down, 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 and we shot the first things was with Judd and Amy, and then we had a month to raise the rest of the money to
Yeah,
continue shooting because we had no money. And
Yeah,
that was the most stressful month because literally you have to like start thinking, how can I get more money to finish this movie? Because already investors. Sure. I mean, as soon as Judd and Hurt, like when we were start trying to get more money, yes, you can present what we were shooting, like try to do a little teaser to present it, and then
yeah,
people got on board. But that was very stressful. And then product placement, you
yeah.
told them, and then that's where product placement probably started.
I would just say, yeah, to Garrett, like absolutely, it's worth. We all know that it's worth having name talent, especially like very talented name actors that can elevate the film creatively, marketability, like all those things. And then you add in an Academy Award nominee like Judd Hirsch,
yeah,
who's just loved in the industry, that kind of thing. And Amy Smart's been in a bunch of pretty, really, really big movies over the years, and she's
yeah,
super popular and also incredibly talented. That's just I don't always think that she gets the opportunities to showcase her skills.
yeah,
But anyway, yeah, this is all more about being prepared for what it takes to have them in your film. Like we are saying, we were not entirely prepared to take on everything, and so it became really stressful. So when you're attached to talent, know that it elevates the film, but also there's a lot of more pieces that come into
Yes.
play.
And
That
also, I just wanted to let them know that it's like if you get a well-known actor, no matter how big or A, B, or C, you will have to deal with the agents. You
yeah,
have more in your budget, trailers, food, the flying, if you're flying them somewhere for marketing purposes after the movie.
yeah,
If you want to go to a festival, you have to put something in the budget that accounts like their flying, their
yeah.
per diem. Like there's so many things that you would not think.
Memo to new filmmakers. They're not your like, when you put like your uncle in the film or something or your best friend in it, like just be, if you're lucky enough for them to like the role enough and they agree to it, like you can't expect them to come and like sleep in a guest room of your house and
yeah.
just do whatever it takes to make the movie. Like that is not professional. But you'd be surprised more often than not how when that happens and people are surprised by all of these surrounding variables that are very expensive, and not just that but time consuming. So there's a reason when you go and see a Hollywood set, it's not like two people in a camera and like shooting. It's
The circus.
honey wagons, like
Yeah.
lots are taken up and all this stuff because you have to build a comfort zone for people.
Isn't
So
it's such an interesting space to be in too because they want to work. I mean, the actors, Judd Hirsch. It sounds like, I mean, when he shot your movie and then the next day got on a plane. Didn't you tell me this that Next day, went on a plane to shoot Fablemans.
Yep.
So he shot the Fablemans, I believe, a week after we
Yeah,
shot ours. But what did happen was when I met Judd, we started talking about the script, and I met him at his hotel in the lobby. And then he was like, "Can you just give me an hour? I have to go talk to Steven Spielberg on Zoom." And then afterwards, we can work on the script a little bit. Don't
please.
go anywhere.
That's when we say, "Yeah, I'll come with you. Let's go. Let's go."
Yeah. No, I told him no, forget him. Like we're working right now. Like no, I
That,
did not. I would never work again. No, I was hoping he'd invite me to come up with him and say hi, but
that's right. Yeah, why
you
not?
know, I would have gotten in the way.
That, I guess, yeah. So yes, they want to work. These professional actors, any actor wants to work, and if you obviously have an amazing story or a fantastic script that caught their attention. But yes, and I think that there is that you hire the actor, you hire the circus, but there is a need for that, right? Because the actor then has to be protected, and it can't be Judd that is saying, "Hey man, I don't want to sleep in your aunt's bedroom. Like you got to take care of me." That's what the agent has to do. They have to say, "Judd will do your movie, and you will get 100% from Judd." In order to do that, though, let's make sure that he's taken care of.
Yeah.
And we saw the same thing with actors in our films, and as hard as a pill that is to swallow sometimes as a producer, uh, it's worth it. Like it's what you do to
Yes.
so that now your movie turns people's heads. They go, "Wow, this is a legitimate actor with or a movie with Academy Award nominated actors in it." It's pretty cool.
Yeah, you absolutely have to, separate the show from the business, as Kathy was saying earlier. And when you're, Amy and Judd, like when I actually met them and they were on set, we were really lucky, like
Yeah,
to have people that were just like, they're the opposite of prima donnas or needing any, like they didn't weren't needy at all. They actually hung out on set more often than in their trailers. They liked being around people, like just whatever you needed. Like they got what once they were on the set, like they understood where where we were at as a production, that we were flying by the seat of our pants, and they jumped on and said, let's go. Judd was reciting King Lear in between takes. Like he was in a much better, more jovial mood than I was. Like
yeah,
I was like so stressed out. So he was like keeping everyone calm. So it's not like all the business aspects that they come with is not like has nothing to do with them as people and as artists. It's just the professional way of doing things. And once again, I just reiterate, like this is we're talking about people working on a micro budget and all that stuff. Like can't just throw them into your film. Like
yeah.
it's all these things have to come into place. And is it worth it? Without a doubt. But
Yeah, awesome.
get your paperwork in order.
Very cool story how that all came together. And yeah, to see those two actors in the movie was like, oh, you guys pulled it off. That's awesome.
Yeah, great.
So, just for the sake of your guys this time, I want to say let's maybe fast forward a bit to your movie's done. Now, what are you doing? You're focusing on distribution, you're focusing on marketing, you're focusing on how are we going to get this out into the world, get our investors' money back. What does that kind of look like? Catherine, speak to us about your role throughout the whole thing. You were thinking about marketing from the beginning, so how did that show up throughout the process?
Yeah, well, it's fascinating, and I continue learning every single day. One of the biggest challenges looking for distribution is some people said, "Hey, you don't have big actors enough
Mm.
to distribute it," and it was shocking. I was like, "What?" Okay, well, take a deep breath and keep going. And then it's like, okay, somebody, this movie for some reason, as a producer, it was always something happening that we're like, we're gonna shut down, and something happening. Like literally, miracles were happening. Like Liz says, we were always in the bottom of the ninth. Like literally, something happened to keep us moving forward. So I was to start trusting the universe and say, like, okay, well, we're going to find a home for distribution. And we went to many people, and honestly, my biggest advice, talk to different people, to different distributors. Don't believe just one person that is going to open the door and like honey your ears. Like there's a lot of that is intel on it. Like the way you have to negotiate with distributors. They have to recoup some marketing money. So all that kind of negotiation, you need to be aware of who does what in a better way so you can pay your investors later. One of the biggest disappointments that we have seen so far is marketing. Is like, yeah, well, we are now distributing, like we have distribution now, but okay, we're out there and now nobody sees our movie. And that is one of the things that we are like right now facing, where it's like everybody's dream is to get into distribution. Okay, amazing, we got it. But now what we're facing is there's 20,000 titles out there in the platform, and who is going to find your movie? Well, one of the biggest challenges, and the people don't understand, is the way distributors work is like your movie is not a special. They bring 20, 30, 50 movies as a bulk to sell it to somebody else. So you are just a product, and they sell it in bulks. It's not that your movie is so special that they're going to like literally take care of you and they're going to do all this marketing for you. No. So that is one of the things, that how to navigate with how to overcome, how to become like in the algorithm or whatever we are to be the top and people start seeing us. And that is where we're still learning how to do that. One of the biggest challenges, and that is one of the things that I was telling from the beginning everybody, but when you work in teams, sometimes they don't listen to you, is put a marketing budget. In your budget, you have marketing um, dollars in there, because that's one of the challenges right now. Yes, the distributor is going to do their best in some kind of budgeting of budget, but it's not too much. So it would be nice if we had our own dollars to spend in also supporting that marketing budget, to put it out there, from social media to like display like any Google ads and all that stuff to support that, so your movie can be shown. One of the biggest things that we had a product placement, which was fun, the cochlear implant company, and they have millions and millions of followers, and so marketing wise, we partnered with them of like, okay, how can they help us to to get aware, to have some awareness. Well, they did their part. We actually put Amy Smart in big in the View, for example. She was in the View, and it was millions of viewers.
Yeah.
However, how you find rally caps in the outdoor out there? Right now we're at Peacock, but that probably will change in a couple of weeks. So it's like, and that is the thing. It's a game. Like it's like, for example, some distribution is like, okay, you have exclusivity for 4 months in Peacock right now, but now there's changing because somebody else is now wanted the exclusivity. So it's changing all the time. But I feel that the biggest thing is marketing, is how people can see my movie. How are we making people be aware that we exist and we don't drown in all these amount of titles in a platform? So that's where we're navigating right now. And we're still like, I came like to the distributor because I feel that this movie is very grassroots movie, where literally you can go to little leagues. You can, that's where creativity in marketing comes up, where you can literally partner with little leagues. You can partner with MLB. You can partner with different kind of things to like make it more aware. But it's very grassroots. And the challenge with that is, the problem is that now I will have to go on tour with the movie. And it's
Yeah.
like, that's not happening because we continue moving forward in other projects. The
Yeah.
other thing is word of mouth. Word of mouth is the best marketing. However, it's like, how can we continue the word of mouth of like with people? It's like you have to have a community. And that is one of the things that is been challenging, because we all have, as an independent, we have other jobs, we have other projects, and once you finish the movie, how can continue the marketing when you're so busy in other parts of your life? So that is the biggest challenge of how to balance your life when the project finishes, and not just give it to a distributor and that's it. No, it's like, how can I continue doing marketing? That is where I'm navigating right now.
Absolutely. I think a lot of filmmakers, they go and get the golden goose, which is to raise money or to get resources and just to get their project off the ground. And then production, like, which massive part of it, which is you're just trying to make your day and get it shot in the can and finished. And so you go and get the golden goose again. And then it's like post production. Can we finish? Like, can we figure, like, raise more money? Have we lost, resources and budget? Now we have to, like, raise more money, go and get the golden goose, finish it. And then, like, it's finished and it goes to a festival and, like, okay, that's it, right? Like, I've gotten like 10 golden gooses. I sold my house. We're good to go. We got distribution, and it's time. No. To Kathy's point, like, that's really the start of the work, in the sense that you need to be very involved with marketing, and not in a controlling way. Not when you're, being precious about your film and telling the distributor how it needs to be marketed. No, they're the brains of the operation, or whoever's doing marketing. They're the brains of that operation, but you need to be a big part of it. Bring as many resources as you can. It's partnership. If you just leave it and set it and forget it, and you think that the distributor is going to have the bandwidth to, like, focus on your film enough to do everything, like, that's just not the world we're living in anymore.
Yeah.
Unless you're talking about the big tentpole films, but those are, like, they have marketing budgets. It's like, it's a whole different, you're not working in that space. And so I would say any mid-tier film down to micro budget and lower is, like, you need to be prepared to have a marketing head. And again, this comes with the strategy, all the way going back to the idea, like, how, but bringing resources. We had sponsorships that were very gung-ho about marketing it in their own way. Phonak was a great partner for us. They provided the hearing aids for the characters for Lucas. And so it was integrated really well into the story, but they also were really big on marketing. So they did their whole campaign by themselves. So all these things, like, you've got to be creative and really, pull it together and be ready to work with the distributor.
Well, and you guys have done that. And I mean, it is, just from summarizing the conversation, it is no small feat. There's no easy way to make a film. There's no easy film. You say, I want to get together with my friends and make a movie. That in and of itself is going to bring a pile of challenges. And you guys have gone beyond that. You've successfully made a movie. It's, I'm hearing about it from different avenues. And so congratulations. You're at 100% on Rotten Tomatoes. You've got Academy Award nominated actor in your film. It's available on Peacock. I mean, that do you ever take a second?
Dream, right? It sounds like
Do
a
you
dream.
ever step back and go, hey, these little hills that we're climbing, that's great, but we've already summited.
And I just want to say, even with Judd Hirsch and Amy Smart, like, getting film critics to review is not something, like, it didn't just go out and people started reviewing and we just sat and watched the reviews come in. It was us really pushing, getting it out there, and film critics have, a lot of integrity, just like anyone else that does their job. And it's kind of like, like, Judd Hirsch might get their attention, but it'll be on the back burner, and they'll say, like, oh, if we can get to it, great. If we can't, whatever. And just kind of, hey, let you know that, like, if I review it, like, basically I'm
gonna be honest,
rip it up. And so those are the chances that you take, but it took a lot of persistence, sending your film out there, researching the critics, like, knowing, their background, knowing, like, when you approach them, respecting their craft and everything like that. It's work. It's not just like, it's not a Marvel movie that you just put out there and, like, all of a sudden the critics are essentially chasing that film. They're not chasing your film. And, like, again, like, we had two big stars not really on their radar, on any of their radars. Yeah. A lot of times I was getting, like, no thanks, or kind of politely, like, hey, look, like, in their own words, they were like, we don't really want to, like, rip the movie up, like, the labor of love. So, good luck with it and everything. I'm like, hey, just watch the trailer or whatever. And they would watch a few minutes and they're like, actually, we'll review this. Yeah. Like, and that's kind of what happened. But again, the point is, like, that in of itself was a lot of work, but that's part of the thing. And we're the filmmakers that went and got that. That was not, some PR firm or anything like that. That was us just hustling.
Yeah, yeah, it's never ending, and congratulations on keeping to do it. It's amazing what we do all so that me and my son can watch a 90-minute movie together about baseball, which we love. So,
Yeah, it
congratulations.
was a great movie. I don't know if we said that at the beginning. It's a great movie. You guys did an amazing job. So
Thank you
what's
so much.
what's next for you guys? We've got a few minutes with you still. What do you have a next thing? Are you just still recovering from this experience? Like where are you at now?
So the whole like, oh, like what's the next golden goose we got to find
Isn't that
to
crazy? Like,
return on the miracle we got to pull? Yeah,
I
like I
think
guess Kathy, you could speak on it. I'll just simply say this is I would say I'm sort of in this transition period because this took a lot of resources and it's crazy to think like Garrett, like you're saying, like all everything that goes into making a movie and people just sit down for 90 minutes and that's they're seeing the final product, but like and they might look at rally caps and say, oh, this is like obviously an independent film or a small movie or whatever, but all the things that had to come together just to make it happen were many miracles.
yeah,
And so this more than anything, like we basically pulled all of our resources that we had, our family had, like it just, we threw everything, all, the kitchen sink at it. And so I think I'm just in this transition where I'm seeing where it goes. The industry, and this is something that you guys probably know very well, and but your viewers should know, like we're in a very, very tough time. And that's, you'll hear that in like any era, but like really right now distribution is I couldn't even tell you any sort of real path to success. There is success to be had, but where do you start with a blueprint? You can't, because we're living in an era that's like you look in in a span of 2 or 3 months you can get an idea, make a movie, put it online, and everyone and their mother across the globe can watch it with one click, which is amazing, right? It's accessibility has never been better, but it's really about attention, right? So like winning a big festival can get you on the radar. A good marketing campaign, like I've seen a few really great marketing campaigns, like through Instagram, where like I went and watched the movie. I had never heard of it. I'm like, oh, I got to see it, and then I watched it, and like it maybe was not all that, but like, man, what a marketing campaign. Like, that is genius. And so that's not to say like, like the content and the quality is not important, but there's all these other things that go into it to really garner that attention. So back to your question, like I need to see it's specifically with feature films, what is the new paradigm with distribution and how it works, because our father's films and our grandfather's films was it was different. You went and you made a movie, and if you made a movie, like it would get bought,
yeah,
or that. This is not to like it was hard, probably harder to get a film off the ground back then, and you needed like a film camera and a crew and stuff like it was a different sort of challenge, but their distribution model is completely different than ours now. And so, can you successfully circulate money and get assets and momentum to make your next film? Like, really haven't figured that out. And so, to raise all these to put all these resources together that we had to do is just it's not sustainable, right? It's not sustainable. And so I'm seeing how this plays out, and then going from there. Like, and again, I'm just talking about really feature films in the marketplace. Like, we're still involved as content creators and all that, telling stories, but the medium of doing that art form, that medium is going to might be different moving forward.
yeah,
Like how exactly
definitely.
we tell those stories.
Yeah, definitely for me is as a producer and everything that I have learned and most like everything was confirming for me in this making this movie about marketing. For me, it's like for example, the new way to raise money, honestly, from a sponsorship to product placement would be my to go first as an independent filmmaking. Yes, there's a lot of things happening in that world that is not knocking somebody's door and say, "Hey, can you sponsor my movie?" No, it has it's a process. But that would be as an independent. I feel that that is something that moving forward in any project that I would do, I would think about it first. Number two, adding marketing from the script. And number three, I think the way I do and the way I relate with people. Producers, we need to understand this is business, but at the same time, how you build your team is extremely important, because the way you build your team is this can be a horror movie or this can be an amazing experience. And one of the things is producers, we always are literally invisible when everything is happening, when everything is going well.
Yeah.
But we are the bad cops when everything is going wrong. And for me, it's like building a good team, building from the script, marketing. I will continue thinking that way for next projects. And definitely mental health. Nobody talks about mental health in producers. And that is one of the things that I encourage people to, like, literally, hey, take care of yourself, because
Mm.
yes, we are the ones that actually take care of this movie, and it's a lot on us. But nobody turns around and say, how's the producer doing today? No. Or it's like, are you okay? And we're like, ah. It's
Yeah.
like, it's like I feel that marketing and mental health in producers and building teams is the most important thing for me moving forward in any project. Enjoying who I work with, and definitely see that there's an opportunity. I feel that I'm with Lee in a lot of things that he says, but at the same time, I have that marketing side where it's like it is possible to do it. Just you have to be creative as a producer how to do it. There's where the creativity comes from. People think that producers are not creative. No, we have to be creative on solving issues and solving how can we make something happen that nobody sees it and we can see it. So I think that right now we're just reading projects and trying to find a good match for us.
This is why I'm just going to say, this is why she's my better half, like significantly better half, because like two prongs of an answer of the same question. I did like a dramatic soliloquy with no real solutions. And half of the time she answered the question and gave several solutions.
You,
So find yourself a Catherine as a partner. That's what I would say.
yeah, you guys are a good match. It's fun. It's you can see definitely the director side and the producer side coming out of each of you. So that's so great. You've been so insightful and generous with your time and your knowledge and your experience. And boy, I hope that those that are listening and those that continue to work to make movies can really appreciate what you've done. And I hope that you take a second to step back and go, "We did it!" Like, yes, we're in the middle of trying to get people to see it. That's secondary. I mean, making the movie and getting it out there, you guys have done it. It's so cool to see. And congratulations on its success at the various festivals. It's been awesome.
Thank you so
You've done it a few times yourself, Garrett.
Yeah, that's what I was setting myself up for, to really no, it's fun to see. We're all doing this together. So congratulations. Okay,
For
and
sure.
and we'll put a link to the movie or to your information in our show notes so that if you're listening and you want to check out the movie, please do. It's well worth it.
Yeah, no, thank you so much for inviting us, for the opportunity to even market the
Yeah,
movies
right.
and helping, it's like this is marketing, believe it or not. But it's like, but also we would like to help. I mean, if I can help somebody to
Yeah.
learn and be an open, because unfortunately there is not a manual. Like it's different for everybody. But if I can help to somebody that don't go with the struggles that I went through, I'm more than happy to help.
Amazing. Thank you both so much. Great to chat with you. Congrats on the movie. Hopefully, we'll see you again soon, sometime, maybe in the future. It'd be
We'll do
great to
another
see you guys.
episode for your next big deal.
There
Let
you
us
go.
know. What are you doing tomorrow?
Yeah.
No, it's funny. I was just thinking, I actually had a character in one of my scripts that never got produced, but his name was Darren Garrett. So
Oh,
I just wanted to throw that out there, that maybe there was some sort of
It's a sign.
universal
yeah.
like connection here. But no, seriously, thank you for having us. Would love to do this anytime, and really just what you were saying about it being an accomplishment, me and Kathy definitely feel like there was a dream come true here. And dreams are not always picture perfect. They're not always fairy tales. They're not always movies, like what happens in the movies where like everything is great. It's like there was a lot of suffering, a lot of growing, but we definitely are at a place where, being able to kind of climb the mountain back, a small mountain, it made us reflect more and look at what is the greater purpose with all of this.
Yeah.
And so that should drive you, because at the end of the day, it's really about reaching people, reaching audiences, and changing people's lives. This is what creatives do. This is what our contribution to the world is. So don't stop.
Yeah.
Well said.
I love it. All right, love. Thank you very much for being here.
No, thank you.
Thank you.
Oh, those two are awesome. Man, it was
What
so great that they were sharing that.
What a conversation. I mean, Lee and Catherine, thank you for coming on the show. They just shared. One of the things I love about this podcast when people ask, like, what is it about? Or, oh, another film podcast. When we get in these like modes to like market a movie or talk about a movie, you go on these radio programs or news programs and you have about a 5 minute segment, and they ask you all the same questions, and you say good things about your movie and the experience and the actors, of course. I mean, that's the promoting the movie. And then they go, cut, great job. Oh, thanks for coming on. So tell us what really happened. And that stuff never gets out there. And this podcast, I feel like, picks up where those interviews leave off and cut.
Mm.
And we just saw that with Lee and Catherine, who came and obviously have a great love for their film and shared great insights about it. But we get insights as to how hard it is and every little challenge along the way. And that's what we want to do for independent filmmakers. We want to demystify that process. Like, it's hard, it's challenging, but it's fulfilling and worth it.
You said it, man. Like, I love that we're not just a place for people to vent, but we're saying, yeah, it's hard. Yeah, sometimes it breaks you, but it's worth it. And here's why as well. So you got that nice balance of like, yeah, we made something that will be around forever. Like, their movie will be around forever. Our movies will be around forever. Forever. So, like, how cool is that? Like, I'm thinking about my kids telling their kids about, this is a movie great grandpa made. Like, that's something, like, what else could I do besides maybe writing that has that sort of legacy, that has that sort of longevity, that has that sort of impact and influence on the culture and on people? Like, it's so cool. Anyway, enough about how awesome we are and how great our podcast is. But you're right. Like, I love these conversations.
I like the conversation. Yeah, regardless, this podcast or somebody else's podcast, it's nice to hear like real experiences of people, what they're going through.
Yeah, when it takes a long form podcast to get into that, because you cannot do it in 3 to 5 minute segments on TV or radio. So
okay, so Darren, let's see, what are we working on this week? I'll start.
yeah.
How's that for a segue? No, I'm excited this week. So Faith of Angels is on Angel Studios right now. We're on week 5. We've crossed over 200,000 views on their platform, which is amazing because they just crossed over 1 million subscribers. So 20% of their subscribers have viewed Faith of Angels, which is really fun. They've invited us, some of the cast, to show up and record a live stream. And so
Oh, wow.
we'll see if we can get to put that live stream on our channels as well.
That'd be awesome.
Yeah.
That's super
so that's
cool.
good. So continuing to promote that and pitch other projects. I had a meeting last night with somebody about a series that I'm working on that I've been pitching for a while, and we're very excited about that. The meeting went well, and so I mean that's kind of the day-to-day activities. How about you?
That's awesome, man. I've been thinking a lot about let's call it a flywheel for raising money. And a flywheel,
Okay.
in very short terms, a flywheel is something that every step of the process naturally leads to the next one and ultimately circles back on itself, so that every time it rotates, it gets easier and easier and picks up speed, meaning that it starts giving off more of the outcome that you're looking for. It's a very short overview of what a flywheel is. And I've been a systems thinker for as long as I can remember. So the idea here is, instead of just doing scattershot activities that may or may not lead to people investing in my film fund, let's build a flywheel. And it's hard because initially it's really hard to get a flywheel going. Like it's kind of like a J curve. It's like you're going in reverse almost. You're going down below this equilibrium of like success or whatever. So it's like not success, not success, not success. And then it starts to uptick. And you're still below like where you started, but at some point exponentially starts growing or at least picking up speed, and it gets easier and easier. And so what I'm doing is really analyzing over the last couple of weeks what's going on with the flywheel. Am I actually picking up speed, like spin after spin, or am I doing scattershot stuff? And I actually, just in the analyzing of all that, was like, okay, the activities I'm doing aren't actually leading to the next thing, the next thing, the next thing. So I really had to kind of pivot and go, okay, I'm going to hone in on who I'm actually reaching out to and who I'm talking to. I'm going to get more focused on the aspect of the flywheel that generates leads on autopilot, so to speak, like using inbound strategies like content and writing. And so it's just in the last like week and a half, really, that it's like, oh, my calendar next week is full of 5 meetings with investors that I've never talked to before. That's
nice.
interesting, right? So it took 3.5 months of constant every single day, every single week, every single month going, is this picking up speed? Is this getting easier? Is it generating more of the outcome that I want? And yes, the outcome is not more meetings. The outcome is more meetings with people who will ultimately invest in the fund. So I found that I was doing a lot of work to get investors that either weren't in a position to write checks, or were kind of like angel level checks, $10,000 to $50,000. And like, if you're trying to raise $10 million from $10,000 checks, that's going to take a while. That's 1,000 checks. Like no one has time for that. So just, it was almost like I started pushing this flywheel, this big behemoth of a thing. I got 1 or 2 rotations in and was like, oh, if that picks up speed, it's still not going to work getting me the outcome that I'm after. So I kind of had to stop pushing on that one, build a new one, and start on that one. And that's been the last like 2 weeks. And so all that to say, it's a lot of work. It takes time. But if you build flywheels instead of just do scattershot activities, then the things naturally lead to the next thing, the next thing, the next thing. And so every investor tells me about a different investor I should talk to. And every day that I post content, it's another person that's finding about what I'm up to and what I'm working on. And so it's working slowly but surely. We're going to get there. And so that's what I'm working on. That's a long answer. Sorry.
That's fine. That's a great answer, and definitely you're in the middle of it, which is exciting. And hopefully those results next week show you that it's working. That's cool.
Yeah, it's pretty fun.
Well, good. Well, we've hit our limit as far as length of episode. I think this one's a record, but it was worth it. It was a great discussion, great interview. Thank you again to all the listeners who continue to and viewers on YouTube channel who continue to watch and share and like and subscribe and whatever else the kids say these days.
Yeah. Well, and that's the next flywheel that I'm thinking of, is like, what's the growth flywheel look like for Truly Independent? And I think the thing that makes it go around faster is, if you liked this episode, think of a friend and share it with them. Send them a text, send them a link, put it on social media, whatever, and say, I really like this episode. I think you will too. And that's going to help this thing grow and have more impact and reach more people. So thanks for watching, like Garrett said, but please share the show as well.
Okay, Darren, we'll talk with you next week.
Okay, thanks, man. See you then. Thank you for listening to this episode of Truly Independent. To join us on the journey, be notified, and ask us questions about today's episode, head over to 3coinpro.com/podcast and put in your name and an email address. If you're a fan of the show, please leave us a review on your favorite podcast app and be sure to share this. Thanks for listening, and we'll see you next week. Our intro and outro music is Election Time by Kjartan Abel.